Okay, my name's Zakashi, guys, and in this video here we're going to be getting into team building. Now, I've done this video before quite a long time ago, but the game's changed quite a bit and I feel like I could do this video in a much better format. So I'm going to be getting into everything that you need to build a team and how you can build the best team. Now, I've got some presets here, and if you guys follow me, you should already know that I've got some pretty good teams. These are just some that I've got on standby whenever I want to use them using the presets. They're a pretty solid team all around, and they all just follow a similar format which you guys will be able to take in when you're actually building your own team if you don't want to just copy someone else's team. So I'm going to try to get through this video as fast as possible, but there is quite a bit to cover. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this video. It is fully time-stamped for your viewer experience. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button, man. We're on this grind to 40,000 subscribers. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this video. If you haven't already, check me out on the social medias too. This the YouTube channel. We've got a Twitter, Twitch, Reddit, Instagram, and a Discord link all in the description below, so make sure to check me out on all of those. But yeah, let's actually get into this video now. Okay, so for those guys who watch any of my other team building videos, I also like to show this thing called the fundamental of team building, because the game pushes a lot of things in your faces that is really not relevant. So the first thing I'm going to start about is the ability bonus. It's not relevant really and truly. It does give you a good depiction of how well your team is doing, but your ability bonus doesn't mean your team is just going to be better than someone else's, because in reality you don't bring 6 units into PvP, you bring 3, and the ability bonus is a depiction of how well your team is together with all 6 units. But really and truly, you want to make sure that your main 3 units that you're going to use, in most cases anyway, are getting what they need. The next thing I want to go into is how you actually sort your units when you're actually trying to build your team. So you can see here I've got it sort by element, and the filter is usually just sparkling ultra, but I just had it as ultra just to show off. Don't worry about that. But reason why I have it as element is because in most cases your team would like to have one character of each element. So in the game we've got blue, green, purple, yellow, and red. Those 5 there, and then you'd have one more on top of whatever color that can fit the position. At the start of the game, people used Shallot, who was a light type, so it'd be 6, but of course nobody's using Shallot in PvP, let's be honest. So the reason I've got an element, again, just to reiterate, is because you want to cover every single possible ground where you could be type disadvantage against your enemy. So you see they have a whole color wheel, you might want to bring a certain color to make sure that that color doesn't counter you. It's the best way to actually keep a step ahead of your enemy. So another thing that people might question is that, oh, but shouldn't I say it by power level? Well, the reason I say not to say it by power level, because power level is a scam. It doesn't show you a real representation of what units are good or bad. Let me give you an example right now. So let's look at LFMUI Goku right here, or even Beast Gohan. There is no way that Kakarot Goku over here, Android 21, even Bergamo is better than Beast Gohan. That doesn't make sense. But because they're a Zenkai, they have a higher power level, and you'd think that because they have a higher power level they're better, but that's not how the game works, because there's other things that need to be considered inside a character's kit, such as their unique abilities, what their arts cards have, so on and so forth. It's not just a number game, it's based on all things that are incorporated to actually make the unit what it is. So don't sort by power level, just sort by element is the best way to go about it, because really and truly you can just find characters easy as well once you get used to it. And if you need a certain element, you just go to whatever element it is. So blue is at the start, you know, red's going to be at the bottom based on how the color will go. So blue, green, purple, yellow, red. Very easy to sort, most easiest way to actually build your team, and I use it all the time. I definitely advise you do that. And for this filter over here, just generally speaking, your sparklings and ultras on most teams are going to be the most valuable. Never really heroes and extremes, maybe in a few exceptions, but let's be honest. And then if you want to make it even easier, you can set the character filter for whatever team you decide to build, and then even sometimes the episode selection. For example, if you're building movies, because there isn't a movies tag, it's an episode. But that's pretty much everything you need to know about actually putting your thing together, your team together, so you can have the easiest time. That's what I like to call the fundamental of team building. Alright, so the next thing we're going to get into is the 4 things that you would need to actually make your team. So that would require the Z abilities, the Zenkai ability, the ultra ability if you have any ultras, and I'll just glide over equipments quickly because there's a question that I've been asked a couple times, but it's very common sense, but I can understand why a new person wouldn't understand it. So if we look at the Z ability, we're going to take Ultra Gogeta Blue. The Z ability, you just see it for what it is and you look at what it includes. So they very much emphasize what they're talking about when an ability comes up. So you can see here, plus 5% special move damage inflicted by tag Fusion Warrior. Where it says tag Fusion Warrior, it refers to this bit underneath where it says character tag. Sometimes in a very few cases it will actually say episode. So if I bring up someone here, we could talk about MUI. In MUI's case, it doesn't say tag what it does, but you can see underneath it says episode Universe Survival Saga. That would be referring to this bit here where it says episode, not the tag. So you just gotta really read what it says, and over time it will become much easier knowing what it is. You won't even really need to read the whole thing. You can just scan it. You can be like, oh, Strike Arts episode USS Universe Survival Saga. It's that simple. That's for the Z ability. You need to read what you're getting out of it, whether it be special moves, strike attack, blast attack, defense, whatever it is. Just read what it says, and then you'd want to actually build your team accordingly to what Z ability you can put throughout your whole team with the units that you have. The next thing we got to touch on is the Zenkai ability. Now this one here is not much different, but usually has specific requirements. So if you look at it, you get 4 types of buffs for your units once you get them to Zenkai 7, which would be the Zenkai ability 4. So you can see here, strike attack, blast attack, strike defense, blast defense. It's the 4 main stats that you have really and truly to make your unit what they are. And you get 40% or 35% when you're at the Z ability 4, depending on which unit it is. Usually melee ones will get 40% strike attack, and then range type will get 40% blast attack, for example. What you want to really read is the condition though. The condition, it usually ties 2 things together, not 1, 2. So you might be thinking, oh, purple and tag Saiyan, so if they're Saiyan they get all of these 4 things, which is really good for your team. No, they need to have both. So you can see here, characters that are both element purple and tag Saiyan, and that would apply for everybody, including themselves, that meets those requirements. So in this case we're talking about purple and Saiyan. If we look at Super Vegito, he is element purple, you can see at the top, and he's a Saiyan, so he gets that ability, and that's how it works for most units that are Zenkais. They get their own Zenkai ability. That's why they're a lot stronger when they get a Zenkai. But if we look at this case here, we can see Gogeta Blue, he's purple and he's a Saiyan, and if you want to confirm that he gets it, even if he's not on the leader slot, so if I change my settings here, I'll take him off the leader slot here, and then if I go to details, right, if I go to Gogeta, you can see over here at the bottom, he's going to get the Zenkai ability from Super Vegito. That makes a lot of sense because he meets the conditions. That would make my Ultra Gogeta Blue a lot more powerful because he has that Zenkai ability. The final thing we got to touch on is the Ultra ability. Now the Ultra ability, it makes a difference because you need to know what the leader slot is. Now you can see here, it says, if this character is a leader, applies the following effects to self when battle starts. So you can see here, he'll get 30% damage inflicted, 30% key recovery. That applies for most Ultras. But if you don't put them in the leader, then a different thing applies. So below that it says, if this character is not the leader, applies the following effects to self per tag Fusion Warrior battle/support member when battle starts. So that includes everybody in your party. It doesn't just include the 3 you're going to bring into the battlefield. It includes the 3 that are sitting out and that are being just used as a Z ability because you didn't decide to use them in that battle. So you can see here, you would get 5% damage inflicted per battle member that meets the certain tag. In this case is Fusion Warrior, and then 5% of key recovery. So damage inflicted and key recovery 5%, and it says up to 3 support members will be counted, which is just what I explained. It counts the whole 6, not just the 3. Now the reason why, if you don't want to run them on the leader slot, this is important, is because if they all have that same tag, he would still get the 30%. So this over here on the leader slot option is equal to this if he wasn't on the leader slot option. 5 times 6, that's 30. If you don't want to have all 6 of the same tag, which is Fusion Warrior in this case, you just put them on the leader slot and you would get that 30% regardless. That's how the Ultra abilities work. If you're using an Ultra, very much bear that in mind, because if you don't have them on the leader slot and you don't have 6 of that tag, they're going to feel a lot weaker and you might be disappointed. Okay, this isn't an equipment video, but I should touch on it like I said I was going to, because it's quite important for your team building. I have this equipment, for example. It's a very beginner question, but I'm going to answer it. Some people ask me, when you actually get your upgrades on equipment, do you get all 3 slots or just one of them? You get all 3 slots. So you can see the first slot here, you get strike defense. If you upgrade it, you no longer get the first one, you get the second one. That's not how it works. You would get all 3 slots, which is why it's good to get a first roll. Another thing I should mention is that when you actually get your equipment, the first slot is unrerollable. So when you actually grind it in whatever event you're doing or the exchange shop you got it from, you should make sure that the first slot is as high as it can be, maybe a yellow or a red slot, before you actually invest deeply into the middle and the third slot, which can be re-rolled. You can see it says re-upgrade and whatnot. If you want to talk about what type of equipment you should go for, what I really just advise blatantly is to either just watch YouTube videos or press this recommend button. The recommend is usually a representation of what people are using in PvP with this unit, so it'd actually be accurate for what you'd want to actually apply when you're using this unit. Otherwise, you should just build in accordance to what your team or unit actually needs. So this will touch on what I'm going to explain next later on in this video, but really and truly it's just your Z abilities. If they are more strike based, melee based, would be the same thing. Range type, blast based would be the same thing. Defense type, etc, etc. So just try to keep on that same path so you have a lot of consistency in your team, and you'd see based on what type of units you have in your team, whether they're melee or range type, they would actually it'd actually be better to buff them that way through their equipment and the Z abilities and other units that you're going to surround them by. So for the leader slot, I'm going to do a whole nother video on it, but I'm going to explain it in short so you can just understand how it works. The leader slot has their Z ability applied to everybody else on the battlefield or on the team, as long as they're brought into battle. So with that being said, you can see here Ultra Gogeta Blue, his Z ability specifically says Fusion Warrior, tag Fusion Warrior twice, or Saiyan. So if they meet any of those, specifically using the word or, then they would actually get the Z ability. But that would be normal if he wasn't on the leader slot. But if he's on the leader slot, even somebody who's not a Saiyan or a Fusion Warrior would get that Z ability as long as you bring Ultra Gogeta Blue into the battlefield. So if I run hit, right, if I show you the details and I go to hit, you can see he's actually going to get the Z ability for Ultra Gogeta Blue. Plus 5% special move damage inflicted by tag Fusion Warrior and 42% to tag Fusion Warrior or tag Saiyan base strike attack and defense during battle. Then in the red, it gives you the specification for what the leader means. So you can see here, leader, select the leader as a battle member and this effect will activate even if the character does not meet the necessary conditions. So in this case, you can see blatantly hit is not a Fusion Warrior or a Saiyan. If you just want to fact check just for sake, you can see he's not. He doesn't have the tag there. He's not even from the same episode, just so you can know for that for sure. But because Ultra Gogeta Blue is the leader, he is able to get that Z ability as long as I bring Ultra Gogeta Blue into the battlefield, which will be most cases anyways, because he's literally going to be one of the best on your team, at least at the time I'm making this video. But that's pretty much how the leader slot works. If you want to think about what type of leader you should bring, just again in short, I'd say advisory for the Ultra that you're using. If not the Ultra, most likely your strongest unit on the team or a support unit if they don't meet the tag requirements as the rest of the team. In my case, I run Fusion Warriors, so a unit that I like to use a lot on my Fusion Warrior team is Red Pan. Why? Because she's a very good support on any team. But because she isn't a Fusion Warrior, she wouldn't mesh well with the rest of my team. So I'd take her over here, put her on the leader slot, and the rest would be Fusion Warriors of whatever sort. And simply because at the time I'm making this video, there's 3 Fusion Ultras, you can imagine that the Fusion Warrior team is pretty stacked. I just put 2 other people on the bench here that are Fusion Warriors. And just so you can actually understand how this team formation thing is working, these 3 are Ultras, right? Like I told you, as long as I have 6, if they're not on the leader slot, they would get that 30% damage inflicted and key recovery. But because in this case Pan is the leader, I'd only be getting 5 because there'll only be 5 Fusion Warriors as long as I fill this out. So just for sake, let me actually do it for you. I'm just gonna pick 2 more Fusion Warriors quickly. Where can I find Vegeta Blue? There's 1 more Fusion Warrior, and let me just pick 1 more. Okay, there. I've got 5 Fusion Warriors now. So in this case, USG, UGB, Ultra Gogeta Blue, Ultra Super Gogeta, USV, Ultra Super Vegito, they'd be getting 25% for their Ultra ability, which I can show you right now. So you can see here, it says Fusion Warrior, 5%, so you times that by 5, that's the 25 there for USG. Ultra Gogeta Blue, same way. You can see here, 25%, because of the type Fusion Warrior, there's only 5. And then over here, Ultra Super Vegito would be the same thing, 25%, because there's only 5. Now that pretty much wraps it up. You take that sacrifice of the 5% because Pan is that good of a support. You really have to think about what you're sacrificing for what you're getting and things like that when you're actually applying the leader slot. So this is going to be the last of 2 sections that I'm going to include in this video. Generally speaking, this is going to touch on how you should actually build your team, so the direction you should go about building your team. The way I like to just think about this, and the way everybody thinks about things, is actually just buffing what the team would actually work on the strongest. So let me give you an example. I'm gonna pick 2 units here, and obviously don't worry about the fact that they're actually the same tag or they're leagues apart. It's just for example in this case. I'm gonna pick a character that makes a lot of sense here, which would be Super Gogeta, but he's a blast type. So you can see here, we've got Ultra Gogeta Blue, who's a melee type, and we've got this here, Super Gogeta, who's a range type. You can see they already are different, disregarding their element just in terms of what they excel in. He's a range type. You can see by the blast attack, his stats are much higher on the blast attack than the strike attack because he's a range type. Even from the cards he carries 2 blast arts. So just off that, he would actually throw off your team. On this side here, we've got Ultra Gogeta Blue. He's actually a melee type, and he carries 2 strike cards. And if we even look at his strike cards, you can see his strike attack excels way further than his blast attack. Go further in with his Z ability, you can see here, Fusion Warrior Saiyan base strike attack or defense. That's strike, it's melee orientated. If we go to Super Gogeta here, look at his Z abilities, 38% or episode sagas from the movies based blast attack. Now it wouldn't make sense, well it might in some of you guys' head, but it's not the most efficient way to build your team if you actually try to balance them out through all areas in the game. You should really focus on what they actually excel in, and the reason why you should do that is because you carry a certain amount of cards. So if you go into battle, you can see here UGB has 2 strike arts, right? Super Gogeta over here has 2 blast arts, which means that when I go into battle, I'd have a balance of both. But if I actually kept my team linear, so it had the same amount of strike buffs all around through from everybody, that would mean most of them would most likely, not always, most likely carry strike arts too, and that would mean I'd be able to get the most amount of damage out through my strongest area, and that would also add to the fact that I'm carrying a lot of those strike cards. If you don't understand what I mean, I'll go into an event here and give you an example. So if you just click any event, if you guys don't know, I'll just pick this one for example. If I just start the battle, right? When you actually pick your team, you have a certain amount of cards. The game gives you a base level of cards: strike attack, blast attack, blue and green. You can see I've got 3 strikes, 3 blasts, 1 blue and 1 green at a default. Based on what I carry, that number goes up. So if I've actually got 3 melee units and 3 of them carry 2 strike cards, this number would go up by 6 because there's 3 units. You can see here 5, 3 plus 2 is 5. At a number 2, that'll be 7, and then at the end at 9 because 3 of them have 2 strike cards. But in this case, that's not the case. So you can see here my blast arts is going to go up by 2 because Super Gogeta carries that. But if I excelled in a lot of strikes, bringing a unit that carries 2 blasts would throw my team off. That's why it's important to actually build in accordance to what you want to excel in, not just any unit that can fit. It's a lot to carry on from a starting perspective, but keep up. Now if I show you this team that I've built that actually follows that premise, you're going to see a lot of the actual Z abilities are based off of strike attack. That's so I can be consistent, because most of these units will do more strike damage than anything else. In this case, Super Vegeta, Ultra Super Vegeta is a defense type, so he's quite balanced. There's very minimal difference in the strike and blast attack, but he carries 2 strike arts, so it's more efficient to build him strike based. Super Gogeta over here, 2 strike arts. You can see the strike attack is a lot more. It's almost 10k more. Ultra Gogeta Blue I already showed you. The strike attack is way more, and he carries 2 strike arts. Super Vegeta over here carries 2 strike arts, and you can see the strike attack is way more, 20k plus. So those are the only 4 I bring into battle, so they're the only 4 that are really gonna matter. If I just show you the details here, we can start Ultra Super Vegeta, strike arts inflicted by Tag Fusion Warrior. Next one here, Super Gogeta, special move, and then a strike attack. Next one here, Ultra Gogeta Blue, you can see here, special move, and then he's got base strike attack. Super Vegeta, strike attack, and HP. HP is very important as well. Gotenks, HP over here, strike attack, and strike defense if they're a fusion. So you can see staying consistent is gonna actually make me excel in what I'm already good at. If I even show you my equipments to add on top of that, I've got a pure strike attack equip over here, getting some more strike attack. This one here, I believe it gives me strike attack on the last slot. Yep, you can see all around with my equips, it's just gonna be a lot of strike attack. I think it might be easier to actually show you like this. So if I scroll down here, you can see strike attack, pure strike. it's got to be quite consistent so you can actually get the best results. I feel like if I go anywhere with Blast, I'd just be losing out on what I could actually be doing because I'd be missing out on what I'm maxing out already. So just boost what you already excel in. I'll show you a re-example as well. Like I showed you just before, I'm going to start a battle and you can see the strike cards is just going to go up. This should end up at 9. There you go. So it's very, very good to actually just boost what you're good at rather than trying to balance out all areas. It's not the type of game where you try to balance out all areas and you actually will get good results. I think this should also just go without saying, but really and truly you should focus on a tag. Besides from the leader slot, they could be anything. The tag that you use is very, very important. It needs to be consistent because in most cases the Z ability will revolve around that tag. In this case, I'm running Fusion Warriors, which is why you see a lot of the Z abilities will say Fusion Warrior, but they're also Saiyans, so there's like something in common. Tags work with things based on things in common. So if I set this to everything on like that, and I actually apply Fusion Warriors, you would see all of my people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, are all Fusion Warriors. I kind of messed up the order there, but you don't have to worry about that just in case. So if you want to pick a tag, there's a list here when you go to the filter. So if you want to see what I did, press the filter over here, press the change where the character tag is, and you should just look around with tags that are available and maybe build the team that you like based on your interest. Or if you want to go for something that's most powerful, check the rankings like I just said before. But of course, it's best to play the game in a way where you'd have fun. A lot of people like, for example, Saiyans, simply because that would revolve around Goku and Vegeta. I'd have to turn off Fusion Warriors like this. So you can see you're going to see a bunch of Gokus and Vegetas, a bunch of them. And then you can obviously build your team accordingly. But then, because there's a lot of Gokus and Vegetas, the team might be outdated. But yeah, that's just a quick thing I wanted to add for the end of the video. Now, the last thing I'm going to mention, which is actually very, very important to note, is what they can actually do in battle. Now, at the start of this video, I talked about how power level is a scam basically because it doesn't give a true representation of what the unit can do in PvP. Well, this is where that's actually going to come to light, because on the left of the screen right now for you guys, I'm going to put a list of abilities that units will have that actually makes them excel over other units. These are things that really control the battlefield. I'm not going to go through every single one because this video would end up being way more than an hour. But really and truly, these things that I've listed make the biggest difference. All of them really, really make a big difference. If a unit has multiple of these, they're really going to be key in PvP. So if you see any units with any of these, maybe consider using them. But also, just want to add on when it comes to actually playing PvP, I want to mention that you should really just keep an eye on the ranking on the leaderboards. If I go over here to the ranking, yeah, it's going to take quite a while to load. But copying what people are using in the top ranks of PvP would be your easiest route to success if you don't want to build a team by yourself. Obviously, I've spent the whole video helping you to know how you build a team by yourself, but it's good to understand the premise behind how people build their teams, because it's not going to be a case every time where you have every single unit that somebody else has. So let's just take the #1 rank at the time I'm making this video. Let's look at what team he's using and I'll just break it down. So this here, it's a hybrid Saiyan team, but because Ultra Gogeta Blue is pretty much the best unit in the game, he's actually put him in on the leader slot. Now, Ultra Gogeta Blue, he has the Ultra ability, so his Ultra ability is getting maxed out because he's in the leader position. Everybody's getting his Z ability, but in this case, if we look at the bench, he does not care about these bottom 3 units here. Now, you would see that if you use these 3 units here, you might not get the most Z ability bonus, and like I told you, Z ability bonus is also a scam. It's not a true representation of what your team can do. In this case, he's decided to Zenkai buff Beast Gohan because she Zenkai buffs, I believe it's Sun Family and Blue, which is 2 requirements that Beast Gohan hits. Over here, she's got another Zenkai buff for Pan, which here it's, I believe it's Sogs from the movies and Red, so Pan gets that. And then over here, he's using EX Gokua. Not every day you use an EX, but in this case, EX Gokua is actually a HP buffer for movies units. So these 2 units will be getting that. Ultra Gogeta Blue's from the movies as well, but I don't need to mention him because he's in the leader slot position. This is actually a very good composition based on the fact that he's going to be consistently using these 3. Now, you might be thinking, oh, doesn't that make who he's trying to bring into PvP predictable? Yes, but in most cases, it doesn't really matter because nowadays, it's not always a full 6 of different colors that you will need. mainly just focus on the main 3 you're gonna bring, and that would actually still give you good results as long as you're not getting hard color counted. In some cases, people might bring double green or something like that, double blue, double purple, which makes them a lot more predictable if you want to run a lot of greens. This is the hybrid Saiyan setup. It's got HP bar, strike attack here. This EX Broly busts blue and yellow, which is these 2, but because Pan's on the leader, she would still get. Just an explanation of teams that you could actually just copy. It might be completely different at the time you're watching this video, but the advice is just to copy teams that people use in the top ranks because they will give you good results. They're not in the top ranks for no reason. Outside of that, keep note of every single ability that I wrote on the left of the screen, because they will give you an advantage if you understand how they work and why they're so valuable. But obviously I don't want to explain through all of them because we'd be here for an hour. But yeah, man, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was helpful. I know it's basically like a beginner's guide, but there's a lot of people that actually want to know how you can build the best team, and I feel like this is going to be the best guide that you'd find on YouTube to building your team, the organization, the timestamps, to just make your viewers experience the best it can be. So if you did watch the whole video, or you're at this point of the video, press the subscribe button, man. We're on this grind to 40,000 subscribers. Help me, help you, help you, help me. It goes both ways. If you're new, you know what to do, man. Press that red button. All my social media is going to be on the bottom of the screen. This is the YouTube channel. We've got a Twitter, Twitch, Reddit, Instagram, and a Discord link, all in the description below. But I'm gonna leave the video like that, guys. I appreciate you guys for watching. My name is Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.